So tonight we have our guest, Peter Kees, a German conceptual artist, and his work is so complex and so it has so many diverse ideas that I think the best is that he introduce himself, and anyway he will talk about his work. So Peter, please, you can start.
In the first moment, I will talk about Arcadia. Arcadia is a mountain range in the Peloponnese Greek, topographically. A harsh pastoral and shepherding land in which ancient poets projected an ideal idea of life. A life in harmony with nature, harmony among people, no wars, free love, and the arts have a high status. Obviously, because the shepherds sang so beautiful. Maybe, we don't know exactly. The most prominent representative of these ancient poets is Virgil. In his pastoral poems, we find the ideal landscape named Arcadia. By the way, he never visits the Peloponnese. What began almost at the same time as the emergency of Christianity shaped in the European culture, it was about 2000 years ago. And Arcadia as an ideal landscape in the first period we find in the literature. Shepherd novels and poetries can be found up to the Baroque period. Shepherding becomes also the expression of an attitude to life that reaches its peak in the country circles of the Baroque and the Rococo time. The literature is regarded as a model of Arcadian painting, which reaches aesthetic perfection in the 17th century with painters such as Nicolas Poussin and Lorrain. I want to show you, I don't know whether it works, maybe here. Maybe you know these pictures. You see the shepherds and you see the death head here, and it's written in Arcadia ego. The Arcadian landscape painting became a genre in its own right. And now I talk about this famous example are the shepherds pondering in the front of the gravestone with the inscription et in Arcadia ego. However, this sign does not mean, as for example, Goethe means when he wrote it about his Italian journey, now I am in Arcadia, as means something like I am in paradise. No, it means I am the death. I am also present in Arcadia. Arcadia, therefore, is also a memento mori. When people thought they have to overcome to the two-dimensionality of the picture, the English landscape garden was founded. It's an ideal landscape with a pastoral idyll and a reference to the antique time. It can be found, for example, in the Preußen, the Berlin Arcadia of Schinkel and Linné. What Virgil ideas in the pastoral poems Bucolia has reflected of the moral crisis in the Roman Empire is founded again in the early modern period as an idea of life without social constraints. In the guise of in the aristocratic escapism, the idea of individual freedom is later born. These fantasies of the high nobility were adapted by the bourgeoisie in the 17th and 18th century. Arcadia as an image of the dream of elemental happiness in unity with nature, in harmony with the world, as well as in the memory of the lost state innocent, the so-called golden age, is developed differently over the centuries. However, Arcadia is the longing goal of a careful and untroubled existence in an ideal landscape where peace, love, and harmony represent the place of a perfect existence. For me, even as schoolboy, I was fascinated of this idea, of this Arcadian idea, because I grew up in a town where Arcadia played a role. Friederike, the favorite sister of Friedrich dem Großen, Frederick the Great, King of Berlin, became married in Bayreuth, and she designed in Bayreuth, this is the city about I told, her own Arcadia. So as I was about 10, 12, 14, I heard about this Arcadia. And at some point, the sentence slipped out from me. My life is a search for Arcadia. This was the birth of my artistic work with Arcadia. But I'm not interested, as I showed on these pictures, in escapism. The contrary is my theme. Arcadia is an idealized conception of life, is an unattainable idea, but at the same time a kind of yardstick that can be applied to the reality of existence, to the present, not in order to arrive at this idea, but in order to allow the beautiful, good, and true, at least as a guide for the development of societies. So it also has something to do with humanism. Therefore, my artistic work with Arcadian always means, and that's really important, dealing with the present and its problems, beyond all normative guidelines. It was in the year 2006, I founded the first embassy of Arcadia. Since this time, it's an art figure. I'm the ambassador of Arcadia. I started at the Havana Biennale in Cuba, 2006. Embassy followed, for example, in Berlin, Weimar, Rostock, Neapel. By the way, Ingeborg and Heiko in this time filmed as Arcadia TV, some performances as national days. Here you see me, I'm dressed as Arcadia ambassador. It's in the Kunsthalle Rostock. This is the mayor of Rostock. He has a speech and I has a speech. Then he signed. This is a typical embassy of Arcadia as we had it in different ways. I tell you what is happening in Berlin, for example. On the facade of a house near Hackescher Markt hang a brass sign with the inscription Embassy of Arcadia. Security personnel stood in front of the entrance door. Festly dressed people pushed their way inside. At the entrance, Muses held a guest book for everyone entering to sign. Behind it, there was a noble furnishing, a white flag with Picasso's Pan. Pan maybe is something like the god of Arcadia, and Pan, Picasso, was on this flag, and it was standing representatively in the room. Then there was a string quartet. They play the Arcadian hymn. It's a piece from Jacques Offenbach's Orpheus in the Unterwelt, when I was a prince of Arcadia. Handshaking and some more. Muses offers visas to Arcadia. Do you feel good with the world? It's one of the questions one has to answer to get such a visa. That was the opening of the Arcadian embassy in Berlin. Among the guests are representatives of the South African embassy, from the Turkish embassy. The press was present. The Foreign Office of Germany had called me and threatened to report the matter to the public prosecutor. There was talk of usurpation of office and abuse of the title. But at the end, I don't get any problems. Here you saw the embassy of Berlin. This was in Havana at the Biennale. All the people filled out the visa and they get, I show you this visa. They get this visa you have to print in your passport, for example. So I founded different embassies. I tell you from Havana because it was very interesting. It was a similar game there, but the game quickly left the art scene because of hundreds of Cubans applied for visas, sure. At the inauguration of the Embassy Arcadia in the Palazzo delle Arti Napoli, several Naples-based consulates complained in writing to the Italian ministry. The city's cultural attaché cancelled then the opening speech, but agreed to do it at the last minute. Arcadia, and that's the way of this place, caused confusion. What comes across as a light, playful element has subversive aspects. For example, when the Arcadian ambassador is chauffeured under police escort, you have shown a picture here about this. It's the real police. We call it the real police and they play with us the game. And the mayors and other official representatives play along and give opening speeches. They all do as Arcadian, as a real state exists. These embassy openings are to be understood as artistic interventions to attempt to investigate the question of how far this fiction stands up to reality. The concept of the Arcadia embassy plays with the idea and the fiction landscape of Arcadia. We do, then you can get visa, you can get asyl. The question of the current location of ideal existence is posed. The longing for Arcadia seems to be a yearning of northerness for the Mediterranean South, a dream of eternal issues and so on. For people fleeing today's Europe seems to be this longing destination. It is all the more remarkable that Germans' first gated community at Klinika Horn in Potsdam bears the name Arcadia. The first gated community in Germany has this name. However, the topic not only has a social political side, in that it raises the question of the definition of our concept of paradise, which describes the ideal state of both society and the individually, which the streams of migrants to whom Europe is the promise of a better existence and to whom Europe closes the gates of paradise, as it were, the CIM has a daily political and social critical reference. The play with the idea of Arcadia, with moments of confusion, is precisely a negation with reality that raises question marks. That's for my art, for my work, it's very, very central. I want to put question mark in the world. Of course, over 2000 years, Arcadian has given ideas, visions the science. It helps to development European culture history as poetic, philosophical, artistic, landscape, architectural, or even political creations. Basically, that's what I want to continue. And what is really happened, for example, that people with this, where is it? With this visa cross de facto national borders. It should be, somebody told me that was in Africa, that the people with this visa can cross the border. And this Arcadia is more than a poetic counterdraft, and yet it's only such a counterdraft. Arcadia immanent is landscape design, but Arcadia immanent is also cultural design. There was a painting, for example, from, you know, this painting, I don't know, I have it not here, Breakfast in the Green from Manet, you know this picture? It's a typical Arcadian scene. It was painted in 1863. And what I did, for example, there were some Arcadian, it comes later, here we are. I make in Weimar at this art Kunstverein at ACC, I make this mass weddings. I'm the ambassador. We have this little water, and everybody who wants, there were a lot of people. Was heißt verheiraten? I can
Married.
Married. Sorry, it's really an easy word, but my English not really good, but doesn't matter. No, this was an interesting. Then the next step, there are different steps. Maybe you see this landscape here. And the red points, on all these red points, there's a square meter land I occupied. You see something like that, and that's Arcadia. I started it in 2013. A square meter of land was occupied the first time and declared to Arcadian territory. Foreign state authorities are not longer allowed to prosecute people there. I informed the government and the press and asked the government to change the land register. I did this in different cities. For example, I started in Finland, one in Germany, one in Swiss, in Polish, in Italian, in Austrian, in Dutch, in Czech, in Belgian, in Greek, in French, in Hungarian, and Litau. No one till now in Croatia. Maybe I should come to do one in Croatia. I will show you some pictures. This is a square meter in Bavaria on a lake, and this is the Arcadian square meter. Here it's in Switzerland. It was really interesting when I did it in Switzerland and I informed the government. They wrote me after several weeks and they asked a lawyer, it is possible to occupy a part of Switzerland? And they wrote me, no, it's not possible. We are laughing about your art project, but be careful. You cannot put 1 square meter land of the Switzerland. I get an answer. This, for example, is in Poland. This is in Italy, near Lago Maggiore. This is in the Netherlands, on the Baltic Sea. This is in Austria. Sometimes normally I did it as a guerrilla action, but sometimes, like in Austria, I'm invited. They pay me and they, hey, we have a festival here, you want to do it. This was in Czech. It was also really interesting because I informed the press and I don't have contact with the government in Czech, but the the mayor of this little town near the square meter wrote in the press, it's not allowed, and we will put it away, and I can answer. And so the dialogue was not directly, but over this press contact. This is near Brussels. This is, for example, was also an invitation. It's on Deutsche Eck in Koblenz. It's a very famous German place where all the tourists came, and I can occupy 1 square meter there. And the city of Koblenz buy the square meter later. And indeed, I told you in my first speech, from Arcadia, from the rough hills. This is in Greek. I have to go there to this topic, to this original Arcadia in Greek, and there's also an Arcadian square meter. This is in France. This is also in Germany, near Nuremberg. I had an exhibition there, and they asked me, this is in Hungary. It was also interested, what is happening in Hungary? I get a lot of emails from people because the press, also in this time, the Russian press some years ago is writing about this. I get a lot of emails, some very angry emails. It's very nationalism emails, but also people, for example, I remember a daughter with her father, they go inside the square meter and took a photo, and they, hey, guy, it's great, what are you doing? So there are people very angry about this, and other people, it's like political, other people likes this idea. This is in Litauen. It's also what is it? Užupis. You know Užupis? You have heard about Užupis?
No, I didn't, but tell us.
Užupis is what is in the main city in Litauen? It's what is the Hauptstadt Litauen?
Vilnius.
Vilnius, yes, thank you very much. In Vilnius, it's a part of Vilnius, it's called Užupis, and there are living arts people who had an own state in this Vilnius, and they are independent and so on. And they also invite me to do 1 square meter there. I tried one to Turkey, but I don't travel to Turkey because I don't know, I don't like Erdogan, so I go to the embassy of Turkey and give them the stones and also the materials for this square meter and ask Erdogan, please build a square meter in Turkey. But they throw me away from this embassy. They call the police and I get a little trouble, but it was, I also wrote a letter to Abbas and Netanyahu to do one in Jerusalem. I never get an answer. The last one I did is south of Sicily in Italy. I take a boat. There's a little movie. Maybe now it's too long to show it. Also, it's in German, about 20 minutes. I go out with the boat, and at the end, you see the square meter on the water, and it is going down. So it's find his ground. At the moment, I have about, I don't know whether this works now. It's a little movie I want to show you. Oh, it's working. Great. This is the Arcadian hymn.
Unfortunately, sound we don't hear, but we can see image.
You don't hear the sound?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. So
you can send us links later, you know, we can look at
I can send links, okay, when you cannot hear the sound, but this is the idea, maybe, okay. There is a next video. So, you heard about the embassies, you heard about the square meters. Now I have a next step. The next step is I founded the Arcadian Festival. It took place the first time in the year 2019 near of Munich. Kunstverein Ebersberg is a little city. You can go with the S-Bahn there. And we did the first Arcadian festival, and we had it 2021, the second time. Here you can see, you hear anything or not from this video?
It's not pleasant sound.
Pardon?
But the image is pleasant.
No sound. No sound?
No.
Okay, like the first time.
Yes.
Was in the winter time, okay? You don't.
Yes, that was now to hear.
It was to hear.
Yeah.
Qualitätsbewusstsein und Wirtschaftlichkeit unserer Handel. Not what it's supposed to be.
So we had a lot of projects, some art projects. Also, we had theater there. We had discussions there. We invited a clothes change party. We invited projects. They have nothing to do with art, but with a way to make maybe another way of living. We invite them, and suddenly you notice clothes in the exhibition where the people come and change their clothes. Or we have what is it calling, repair cafe. We invite a repair cafe to be part for one day in this exhibition. You have all these things in the exhibition, and suddenly there are people repairing their broken things. No, that's the first time. The second time, I don't know yet, it's working. The second Arcadian festival was last year. It was in Corona time, so it was not so easy to work inside. So we started this Arcadian flag in Ebersberg at the bank. It's the official mast from the bank, and we get it for the Arcadian flag. It's in a kind supersede. And we started in the open space. There was a Berlin artist called Katrin Schmidbauer. He had an airplane and has this typical famous sentence, "Et in Arcadia ego," at the airplane, and goes over the city. Oh, that's I must go there. So this is a very important and very good work, because it's also a Berlin artist. She printed every national flag from the world over. And that is the result of all the 169 flags. And we can put it on the major house. It was hanging there. It's very interesting. It was hanging there for 3 months on the major house in a city. Though it's maybe you say we don't like nationalism, and the major is okay, put it on my house, on the official house. It was a great work. I don't show every project now. I work with a corporation to be slow, Verein zur Verzögerung zur Zeit, corporation, and maybe they say, for example, put a parking place. It's very expensive to park only a short time, but if you park longer, it's cheaper and cheaper. And after 2 days, you have nothing to pay. So please let your cars down. They work as this. We had a little house, a lighting house. We had video, and it was also interesting. I don't know the English word. Somebody knows for Müßiggang. I took maybe I have my handy here, and I open for the cases. I open Diepel and Müßiggang, and now we can see Idle. You know Idle? Idle is Müßiggang. Idle.
Okay, we'll look.
Idle. You don't see it now. Okay.
I will look at Croatian and I will.
You know, but Ingeborg, you know the German word Müßiggang.
Yes, but I don't know Croatian.
But you don't know Croatian. Okay, so.
Not at the moment.
To be slow, you know, mooses and Müßiggang. And this corporation wrote a letter to the city. They want to name a street Müßiggang. And also the major discussed it. The major wanted, but all his other guys don't allow this. But it was a political in this, with a lot of press and so on. Here we have press. It's an artist from Dresden who made eyes in the high summer, though the people asked, is there a broken Klimaautomat or what is going on there? We have installations on the facade. We have placards in the city. We have different things, a little show with little artworks, and so on. I don't want to show everything now, but just to have a little impression, performances at the station. We have a concert with a string quartet in the middle of the forest, outside of the city. I make interviews with a violin builder and the piano builder, and we have this was the flags also of our official buildings. We can use them stopping yourself from yourself stopping. And it was much linear up the change will change. You're just sitting in the center of the city with this paper and so on. Though this was, we had 2 English guys, they make a Radio Arcadio, Live aus Cornwall, and so on. We had a really big and interesting program, the first as the second time. The next Arcadia Festival, I hope how we find, it was a catalogue. So the next Arcadia Festival will start in May next year, but in this time, we will have some satellites. The center will be Ebersberg, but we have a satellite also in Gdansk, Poland, in Sofia, Bulgaria, and even in Rijeka, Croatia, you know, and one in Berlin. So there are, just in the moment, I discuss with all these people what exactly they will do. But for me, it's interesting. We have to go out of a center and bring the Arcadian idea to other places also. What I did this year, it's not the Arcadian year, for example, I'm the ambassador of Arcadia. And here, for example, is a diplomatic car. And I make interviews in this diplomatic car, and I can go. It was in the center of Munich here. I can go with the car directly in the center and ask sozusagen and ask, can ask everyone can come in my car, and I talk with all these people about the topics. And the result is a podcast, Radio Arcadio. You can hear on the internet, but it's German. It was a very interesting project. I did it this year on the website, and you can find the podcasts. And there's another project I did this year. I invite 11 colleagues to put Arcadian messages on public billboards. On this project, it's called Shoot It Out into the World. Take, for example, part Klaus Steg, a very famous artist in Germany, Franzi Höhne from Leipzig, Susanne Bosch from Berlin, Manaf Halbuni. You know, maybe Manaf Halbuni is the guy where these buses, you saw them in Berlin, in Dresden, in where was it also in Dutch Amsterdam. He put his buses up. You remember? This is, for example, Manaf. I have this artist double from Great Britain, Andy Webster and Derek Timon, Hans Winkler, Tim Ulrichs takes part, Metz Linner up, Elisabeth Altai, Ottjörg, and the Peng Collective. At the end, I get a lot of trouble. I show you just the placard. This was Franzi Höhne in Erlangen at the station. Because you cannot read German, these are famous Werbesprüche. What is Werbesprüche?
Advertisement.
Advertisements. This was Klaus Steg, Ahoy, MS Arcadia. This was Susanne Bosch. He was in Munich. This is Susanne Bosch. He was in Lindau at the station. Other people are feeling, and she makes a paper where you saw alternative projects. This was Andy Derrick and Andy Webster. A white horizon is a picture for freedom is standing here while they are throwing this piano through the landscape. This is Manaf. L is for love, the soldier with the uniform. It was on Starnberg, directly on the station. This is my work, looking for an idealist, Embassy of Arcadia. This was Hans Winkler, Biorevolution. This was Tim Ulrichs, black and red and gold is brown. You know. This is Metz Linner up from Denmark. He also lives in San Francisco. Is time burning a hole in your pocket? I like it really. To be radical open is from Elisabeth Altai, also an artist from New York. This is Ottjörg. We ordered a bike and get what is Panzer and get Panzer.
It's the same. It's
Panzer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And therefore, I got a lot of trouble in the last days.
Caterpillar.
Pardon?
Caterpillar, I think in English.
Ah, Caterpillar, okay.
Caterpillar.
This was standing directly on the German-Austrian border. This border crossing does not exist. And the police is throwing it down after 2 days. And now they ordered me, and maybe, oh, interesting that I had opened the steeple, and the steeple is takes my speech, so we can translate it. Though, maybe this is the last project. The next is the next Arcadian Festival. I want to give you a little overview of the most important Arcadian project I did. I hope it was interesting for you. Now you are welcome to discuss with me.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. It was, of course, extremely interesting, and I'm sure it gives us a lot of ideas about putting some self questions of a certain problematic in our time and our politics.
It reminds me, not a project, but let's say a life style of my father, who had the embassy of Kingdom of God. You know, was from a Christian position. Arcadia is not utopia; it's something that has to come, but cannot be instilled by humans. So we believe that there is an intelligence, a huge intelligence that exists out of our perception and space. That intelligence can really make such a let's say a paradise in the future. So that's why I'm a little bit not skeptic. I think it's a very nice project and very interesting and challenging. It's challenging the national borders, challenging the history, challenging all of it, values, traveling, all of it. But I really believe that the humankind cannot do it themselves. I know that your project is utopian. It's an artistic project, and you would like it to be Arcadia, but we all know deep down that Arcadia is not possible.
Yeah, Arcadia is not possible, and that it's also not necessary. It's not possible. It cannot be possible. And I'm not a political. That's a different. I'm an artist. When I was if I would be a politician, I cannot do this work. I said it at the beginning. I think for me it's important just to put question marks in the world, to inspire, to bring people to thinking, for example. Tomislav, what you're saying is right. I think humanismus and all these things are not working in this world. But
when you say put questions, that's my main, let's say, question. You know, because I think we are living in a time that requires answers.
Yeah.
Because the questions are already out. Now we are in front of big questions. You know, our project is called Emergency Exit. So we have this big question, emergency. So now we are searching for an exit answer. You know, that's why I'm provoking it a bit. But that's the same problem I have also with my work. You know, we all kind of provoke some thinking, but in one moment we have to take responsibility and say what we think would be the answer. Yeah.
But the question is, can we as artists give answers?
Give answers.
Yeah. Can we give answers to which problem? If we talk about war, for example.
Yes.
What is our answer to war?
Let's say, yes, it's a fundamental question. So I think, let's say that war is not a natural condition of mankind. So it's not something that is supposed to be there. So it's not something that it's kind of embedded in human, how we would say, nature. I think that war is a consequence of rebellion against, let's say, Arcadia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
maybe Antwort is Arcadian Antwort, which is actually impossible.
You talk about utopia in this moment. Arcadia, I think it's more bigger than utopia. Arcadia is the over idea, and one little idea of this Arcadia maybe is utopia. And Thomas Morus, who built sometimes with utopia the idea for an ideal state. So it's a concrete plan. He had a concrete plan to say, hey, if we do that, and that, we can live together. But Arcadian, it's more, how to say it in English, it's more a poetic idea.
Of course.
Yeah. And I'm sure that these poetic ideas, also these poetic questions, they have answers in these questions, are necessary in this world where we have a climate catastrophe, where we have war, where we have social problems, and so on. Indeed, you are right. We need answers. But I'm not a science for wind energy or for energy or whatever, and can say, hey, I know a new way how to drive cars without energy, for example. But it's a very interesting question that you say, okay, we know all these questions, we need the answers.
Yes, because,
But-
because again, thinking about the answers we are given now. Now, let's say we are in a phases where the system, let's say, is giving an objective answer to all questions. So because our subjectivity is a risk, we all think differently. We don't agree. We don't believe to any authorities. So the system is now forming a huge disinformation, a new, let's say, not a truth, but a kind of disinformation and a kind of alternative truth, and everybody has to comply with it. If he doesn't comply, he will be sanctioned somehow. So we are striving, we are going towards that position. So where the system, when I say system, I think the whole of all these governments, the whole human civilization, the point where we are now, so we are headed towards even more objectivization. We are running away from the answers, So again, my answer is also, or question is artistic, because I can't save the world, as they say. The miss, when they ask a miss, what do you want? They always say we want peace in the world. When they ask the artist, what he's doing, he's saving the world. So we don't save the world, but I can at least say what is going on, and it's not good, I can say the truth, that there is no solution.
Nina have question.
Yes, Nina has a question.
Can you see? Can you see, or shall we read it? She said,
I can open it. Wait a moment.
What
here.
she said, what helps you determine whether or not to collaborate with a certain artist, in the example of the Billboards or the Arcadia Festival? Only their work and theme, or something else? So question is,
how do you make a decision to collaborate with somebody? Do you know? Yes. How do you choose your collaborator?
How do I choose? Yeah, I'm an old man, so in this way, I met a lot of interesting artists in my life, and you have connected with them, and which artist's work I like, which one not, and I found new ones. Sure, I asked other people's, and by the first Arcadian Festival, for example, now also at the second, we make an open call and had a jury, and so we find artists. And for the third time, we have no open call. In this case, I invite artists which I think which work I like.
It's some kind of extension of your own thoughts, putting in different in different art. But we have to be aware that art has to exist, and that it's giving people some kind of another view outside their realistic daily life, and release them from certain worries. And I think in that case, whatever artists do in a positive way to give people another vision or another question, not answer, but another question, is something which is necessary. Otherwise, they will be like robots to the state and to system that somebody else is organizing for them.
It's very interesting what you are saying, that from questions, if you put questions in the world, maybe somebody gives answers to this question. And maybe the answer only comes because the question is there. If we are looking for other ways to live, maybe for peace, I'm not the one who gives the peace, but I can put a question and anybody can give an answer because he reads the question. And that's important. That's why I do this kind of question art, let me say.
But you are not only questioning with your works that you were showing after Arcadia, for example. You are really showing the most interesting, different view on the daily surroundings. like parking or like some other things. So I'm sure that people are, maybe some are not seeing that, but if they do see it, because you're doing so perfectly that it looks like normal day, something which is already exists there. But I think when they see it, do they kind of laugh, or they get surprised and they think, what is this now? And then maybe they think, okay, maybe I can look for another way in my life, and maybe it gives some kind of relief for these worries, or actually putting some confirmation of their own things, that okay, I think like that as well.
I just looking for a special place, because there was at the beginning, I forgot what, just in the moment, I don't find the word. You know, in the Switzerland, there was this hill. Anybody knows from this hill, and there was an alternative scene at the beginning of what is the name of this hill? Anybody knows? I look for, because I think this changes, for example, there are coming people, what is it,
What is in German?
Yeah, I don't know the German, I don't find it at the moment. I just looking here, it was near Lugano. I'm just looking on the map here.
But in between, when we are looking, alternative way of living was in the history, especially in the 20th century, it was these movements of looking of alternative way of living, and some somehow existed for a while as successful, but interestingly, it failed also. Like hippie movement, actually, on the end, somehow failed.
Yeah.
Although there are some people still trying to live like that. There are also some people who are trying to be on their own in the wilderness and trying to survive, and they succeeded that. But and there are some programs showing, television documentaries showing them how do they live. So there are different way of acting in this world and trying something. Or today it's all this ecological movement of young generation trying to escape from this what is pushing through this commercialism and so on. So this is also some kind of artist movement as well, but artists put in a different way. It's giving to the broader public, not only for self. Let's say I will live like alternatively, and this is my group of people, but artists are giving in the public and pushing ideas to the public, to reach the public, to broader public. That's the aim also, I think, for your work.
Yeah, what I mean, I found the name, it's Monte Veritas, you know, Monte Veritas. And there, maybe it's the first commune in the world where people, all the intellectuals come there. And I think it was only an example. This is not an artwork, but art was important there also in a special way. And it changes the world. We have the problems after, sure, we have maybe different problems, but there was an idea, it could be a kind of Arcadian idea. Monte Veritas has something to do with Arcadia.
Mountain of truth, no? Probably that means mountain of truth.
Yeah, it's called Monte Veritas, Mountain of Truth.
Meaning
yes.
mountain.
So, and so other artists later, I think the art can change in a little way the world.
Sure. It relieves you know, like a music relieves abstractly or emotionally. So what you are doing is more intellectually.
But also in a bad way. For example, music. Think, I told you from Bayreuth, there was this Richard Wagner, and we have this nationalism, and maybe the art influences this way of politics, this way of Holocaust.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
not problem of Wagner. It's problem.
No, it's
of
not
Hitler
problem of
who was
Wagner,
using that.
but the art gives an influence to Hitler.
Or he is
You
using to manipulate.
you can ask, is Hitler thinkable without Wagner? Okay, Wagner had nothing to do with this because he was before. But if there were no Wagner, would Hitler be exist? I don't know. But
Sure, he would.
even there is a bad influence from the art.
It was just one of his ways to influence majority, but
Sure.
it's not Wagner's problem, and it's not.
No, but what I mean is that art can have influence to something, not only in a good way. I hope in a good way, but also in a bad way.
This is a good point, because people are idealizing art. When you say art is always beautiful and good and positive, But what if the world is, as you said, the world, the art is not only the expression of time. Art is shaping the time. So because you have also, let's say, fake beauty, you have kitsch, you have, let's say, deal very much with icons. So you have an icon that represents an ocean, and it kind of completely changes the perception of the notion. Let's speak about God. If art represents God as an old man with gray hair that has a finger, and then he touches his son, Sixteenth Chapel. This artist influenced not only people who are looking, it influenced science, it influenced philosophy, it influenced general meaning, understanding of things. When I'm saying God, I think of a quantum God, invisible, different, kind of way of existing metaphysically and in every other sense. So art, in that sense, has a huge responsibility in the representation of reality. That's why I ask you, what's your goal? What's your idea? What do you want to achieve something with it? Do you have some ethical laws in your square meter? Is it a paradigm of a new world? Are you going to conquer the whole world with all this square? So there are many questions deriving, from your acts. What's the final actually?
Yeah, it has something to do with humanismus.
Yes.
That's the point. Sure, I'm interested in an Akkadian world, or in the way to solve all these problems. It is intellectual, maybe. Yes. I don't know. We have Kant, the philosopher, and he writes down, for example, with categoric imperative, how to live. It is written 200 years before, but it's lost in a way. It's the European world. Yeah, but there are people who give us a way to live, but we don't find it. And okay, we can ask the question: is humanismus possible or not? Maybe humanismus is not possible. We have war, maybe aggressivity and all these things belongs to us human beings. I don't remember a time in the world where there are no war over the last, I don't know, thousands of years. There were war, any war, there were every time this war. We don't find a way to be in a good way humanism. Maybe that's a problem. And for me, my square meter, if you ask, yeah, it's a place to be humanismus, but it's only 1 square meter.
Yes. But maybe you can start with 1 square meter and then think for the enlarging, but not you, but some others. So I would say we should slowly maybe come to the end of our discussion, and I would thank you so much.
It's not a question from Nina. Last chance question.
Okay, sorry, please.
Have you ever received an answer to the questions your art asks?
If I have given an answer to my...
No, did you receive did you receive an answer for the audience or for somebody else? So you are making questions, and did you receive answer?
I think yes. I would say yes. There are some people, sure, who likes it and who changes something in the world. It's a simple way. You have thousands of people in the audience, but if you get one, you are the winner. And there are sure some, not a lot of, or there are sure some people, yes, I receive an answer, for example, I tell you that somebody comes with this visum, he can cross the border. This is a kind of answer. It's possible. And this guy comes back and he has an answer because he said, I have this Arcadian visa and I can cross a border with this Arcadian visa, for example.
So they managed to cross the border with your visa, actually.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah, it happened in Africa.
Okay.
It happened, yeah. That's a kind of answer, for example.
Or gave a hope to some other.
Yeah.
Okay. If there is no more question, I will now stop this recording, and I'm sure because most of us are connected to Rijeka, we will have a chance to meet you in live, which was really nice. And then we can, maybe till then, we can collect our answers, not questions. And so let's see how this goes.
I thank you very much to invite me, and I thank you to listen me. And I'm sorry for my bad English.
No, sorry.
Sorry very much.
It was, your work was showing even more, so no problem. You were just explaining a little bit what we could see.
And I hope to see you in real life, and maybe the discussion with a little red wine or something like that.
Sure.
Maybe we find answers on these questions when we drink a bottle of red wine.
Maybe then our imagination would be a little bit stronger. Okay, then thank you very much.